Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is the July garden tour, state of the garden, whatever you want to call it. First up, we have Solanum Atropurpureum. This is my single seed challenge plant for 2023, a native to Brazil. This is a member of the nightshade family, and as you can see, it is absolutely thriving. This stunning variety of plant was chosen as my single seed challenge plant for the year because of just the sheer unfriendliness look of this plant. And I'll bring you in closer here for a better look. But in the most recent video that I posted, I mentioned that the plant is flowering, and now I think it even set some fruit. So this is exciting. We're going to get to see the entire life cycle, really, of the plant, from seed up to where it produces seed again. Now, it is a perennial that could last up to 3 years, but it won't overwinter in this climate. This plant will probably die come, winter. Probably sometime in December, maybe January will be the last that this plant survives for the year. So hopefully it'll make it, but I'm not thinking it will. And even if it did, this isn't something that I want to accidentally introduce to the area. If you can't see from there why I don't want to introduce this to the area, I'll bring you in closer and you can tell. It might be a little too close, but I think it illustrates the concept pretty well. That's my hand for reference. Those aren't little spikes. This whole plant, every square inch of this plant, including the flowers, are covered in spikes. Not just any spikes, but purple spikes with yellow tips, which is just striking. This is such a fantastic looking ornamental. I would just fear what would happen if this were to somehow get naturalized and start spreading in the area, because as you can see, this is arguably the least friendly plant to have ever existed. I had some problems trying to up-pot this. I mean, look, even the leaves are covered in thorns and spikes, and it's just so fun. Now, I really like the concept of this plant, but keep in mind, there is nothing on this that is usable by humans. This is, at least not for food purposes. You can't eat this. Maybe there's medicine uses for it. I don't know, but I don't remember recalling. I don't remember recalling. It doesn't make no sense. Anyway, I don't recall there being any listed medical uses for this plant. So I'm growing it purely for the pure joy of. I'm on a roll here. I am growing this plant purely for the joy of experiencing something like this in person. I mean, it's just look at the flowers, okay? Look at the flowers here. I don't know how well that's coming through on camera. Actually, no, you can see it. See the little thorns even on the stems of the flowers? Ow, I just got stabbed. Yeah. This is a ridiculously don't touch me sort of plant. And again, just for reference, that's how big the spikes are. You don't want to run into this. This is a plant that if you ran into it in a dark alley, your best option is to just run away. I was experiencing a lot of pest pressure with this at first. Most of the pest pressure in the garden died down when it started raining more frequently. I don't know why there's that correlation. The one thing I have seen is squash vine borer. I lost a trap plant. I had planted a Hubbard squash plant over where the oak tree used to be, and it's using that as a trap plant, and yeah, squash vine borer got it. So anyway, getting off topic, this Solanum Atropurpureum, and it's just glorious. I can't wait to see if this actually sets fruit. It looks like it did. I think this set fruit right here. So we'll see. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of flowers. This plant looks just kind of amazing, and I'm loving every bit of it. This is one that you don't see a lot on the internet either. Like, people talk about it occasionally. You'll see it mentioned, or you'll see oh, so-and-so grew this weird-looking plant, this weird-looking nightshade plant, and as an ornamental, and there's, 2 pictures of it from 15 years ago or something. I'm trying to do one better here. So trying to give this one its day in the sun, so to speak, because yeah, I think it's just absolutely stunning. Next year, I'm going to go with something that won't look as bad, but is arguably worse. I'm pretty sure that I have made my decision. Next year's plant is probably going to be Atropa belladonna, also known as deadly black nightshade, or just deadly nightshade. Moving on. My favorite plant of all time. Not the Bermuda grass or whatever that is that's growing in the pot, but the plant that's growing with the berries. This right here. This wonderful little plant is a native to the area. Solanum dulcamara, also known as bittersweet nightshade. Generally speaking, when you hear about poisonings in old European texts, it was this plant that was used. I just think it's neat. But no, this is my favorite plant in the garden, and I'm glad to see that it is thriving here. Not only is it thriving, but look at all these berries. And birds can eat these, you know. It's not like it doesn't have any uses. It just doesn't have any uses for us, which is fine. Not everything has to be about us, after all. So yeah, Solanum dulcamara, also known as bittersweet nightshade or snakeberry. It's got other names too, but yeah, those are the common ones. My Meyer lemon tree, to be specific, it's really more my wife's Meyer lemon tree. I'm just growing it for her. All the leaves are glossy and green. I don't see any yellowing. Well, maybe there's just a little bit of, I don't think so. I think that's nothing significant. This plant looks like it's quite happy here. Now that is one that will not survive the winter and will have to be taken into the shed probably late October. Volunteer tomato plant. Directly located next to Solanum americanum, also known as American nightshade. Pretty sure this is American nightshade because the flowers are white. Never had this in the garden prior to moving here. But yeah, there we go. American nightshade. In case you can't tell, I like nightshade plants, not just the kind that are edible. But keep in mind, nightshade family does include a lot of the big, heavy hitters of the garden. So tomatoes, peppers, eggplants or aubergines, whatever you want to call them, potatoes, all of those are nightshades. Goji berry is a nightshade. I didn't know that until yesterday, actually. So that's fun. This isn't planted on purpose, by the way. This is just a volunteer that came up, and I thought, why not showcase it and talk about it a little bit? No uses for it that I'm aware of. Touching it's not really dangerous. You just want to, make sure you don't like break the stem and then rub the juice into your skin or something like that. That might cause some problems. But generally speaking, you can brush up against this plant and it's not going to cause anything. And the berries, well, mildly toxic, so, don't eat them. Apple trees. The one in front here is the pink lady, and she's currently caged because she is extremely wobbly. This is a wiggly tree. Not so much here, but further down, this is the one where during a storm, I looked outside and the whole tree, right about at that level, was just like, it came straight up and then it went whoop and just kind of laid in the yard like that. I was like, oh, that's probably not good. So the moment I could, I came out, put the cage around the tree, stuck some branches through the cage sides, and then pinned it in place with a pole to help support the tree. I'm going to have to fix that with probably another stake or something. I haven't, because the cage isn't good for the long run. It rubs against the branches, and that's not something I want to do long term. So far, I don't really see any damage, which is good. And I'm not worried about the branches like growing through or anything because I can just cut this off. Not the branches, but the cage. So shouldn't be a problem from that perspective. Here's my poor little Franklin cider tree that the deer topped. I mean, it's doing okay. It's not really getting much taller. It's definitely the shortest of the trees. This one's still only about 4 feet tall or so, which is roughly the height it was when I got it. A little taller than that, but not by a lot, courtesy of the deer. Other than that, though, the tree's in relatively good health. So, you know, it'll grow next year, I'm sure. It's just storing away that energy in the roots, and then come, you know, spring, it'll sprout again and it will take off. So, looking forward to see how this tree produces. And this one is arguably the one doing the best. This is the Granny Smith. Now, the reason I say this tree is doing the best, you're going to notice there's a little bit of a lean this way, right? The reason for that is because I just, before taking this video, fixed the stake. This tree was leaning like this. So now it's got to compensate a bit. A couple of days, it'll straighten itself out. That tree is easily 6.5, almost 7 feet tall now. And I'll definitely have to trim this back. I already did this once to try to maintain which stem was the dominant stem. It's apparently not listening. It wants to be very vigorous. We do have some nice scaffolding lower down, though. I'm excited for that. That's good. I'll have to train. Might have to get one of my spacers and space this branch here like that. With apple trees, you want your lateral branches to be almost at a 90-degree angle. And in some places, you'll actually see them trending downwards even. I don't know that I'm a fan of putting them down like that, although I've seen local orchards do that. But having them at least at a nearly 90-degree angle basically tells the tree, hey, this is a fruiting branch, so start fruiting. Whereas this, you know, this is going to be like, this is a sprout that is trying to compete with the main one for dominance over which is going to be the central leader for the tree. And if this were to start bearing fruit, the union here, which you can't really see all that well, there it is. So that union would be weaker right there, which is why you want to train branches like that down. Now, given that I already have, not here, but down here, a branch that's in that same line, I would not want to keep this one. So this will probably be coming off when I do my winter pruning for the tree. Maybe this one too, I don't know. I gotta look and figure that out. This one's positioned well, which is good. So, yeah, we'll cover this at some point. I'll go over and show the whole pruning process and I'll explain it better. Anyway, yeah, this tree looks like it's in good. I mean, there's some, you know, we've got a little bit of pest damage. This is the tree that was the hardest hit by the mealybug infestation that I mentioned in my previous video. And as you can see, there is not a single mealybug on this plant now. There's really no pests to speak of that I can see at all. So I don't know if it was the BT spray that did it, or if the ladybug larvae did their job, or what. I don't know what the cause was. Regardless, I don't have a problem anymore, so that's good. It's the pepper bed. This is one of the 2 new beds that were installed this year. This is actually, this is the main pepper bed for the year. I do have a secondary pepper bed as well. You can see there's also a bit of, little bit of borage right over there. We'll take you in for a closer look. Now, all of these are producing really well, actually. I'm surprised at how well these are doing, considering they are planted a bit close together. I probably could have used about 4 to 6 more inches between each plant. I'll know that for the future. I don't remember what spacing I used. It was pretty tight. I knew it was tight when I was doing it, and then I put the borage in on top of that, which did not help that situation. One thing the borage is helping, though, is the pollination, so that might be one reason why these plants are doing well. And pepper plants have that annoying tendency to get weak as they get tall. They want to fall over during storms, but if there's just more pepper plants to kind of support them around them, that's less of an issue. So you'll see there are some cages in there. Those cages were around the plants that grew the fastest. As you can see, those are not the tallest ones now. Anyway, we'll take a closer look here and I'll tell you how each one's doing. All right, so we will deal with, I guess we'll go right to left. So we'll start with this row here, because I did plant these rows this way. So these are all, the same going across. So this row should be paprika peppers. Now, I say should be because the birds have this lovely tendency here to come by and pull all of my tags out so that I can't actually tell. Now, I did take a note somewhere. I can use that to reference what kind is which. But for the most part, it's easy to tell. This should be paprika. I say should be, though, because the peppers themselves, at least in my experience, paprika peppers aren't that shape. But as you can see, whatever kind of pepper this is, it is growing. And it is growing a lot of them. And they are doing quite well. Aw, I just knocked one off. Shame on me. Gotta be more careful. Anyway, these are setting just tons of fruit. Well, I mean, not literal tons, but there's a lot of fruit being set here. So I'm not going to reach in quite yet, except I am because I see some weeds. Gather. That is one nice thing about planting these so close together, is the weed pressure has been very minimal. There's a couple that show up, and that's it. All right, here we have ancho peppers, or poblano peppers, whatever you want to call them. As you can see, there is fruit. We've got lots of fruit set. This looks kind of amazing. Actually, there's a couple kind of big ones in the back there. I'll have to take a look and see what those are. Next up in this line, this is Hungarian hot wax. Now, this is the Johnny Seeds improved Hungarian hot wax variety. And I would say they're onto something. Because there is a lot of peppers there. Just a lot. Now, I've already harvested a few from this plant too, or this row, because there's just so many peppers. You can use them at any stage in their ripeness. So when I pulled them, they tasted kind of like a green pepper, except that when I got to the seeds, that was where all the heat was. Like the skin and even the pith weren't that hot at all. Moving on, we have Italian pepperoncini. And boy, these plants are much bigger than they were last year. So when I had these last year, they were this tall. As you can see, they are more than twice that height. Well, about twice that height. And not only that, again, we are looking at dozens of peppers currently set. And these are just going to fruit over and over again until the season ends. These were one of the later producing varieties as well. So they went until pretty much the frost killed the plant. All right, now here's where things get a little more difficult. I don't know, these might be Serrano. Let me see if there's a tag. There's that tag. That's Hungarian hot wax. I've got fruit set on that, and that plant's only 6 inches tall. Anyway, no, the birds took my tag, and I don't know what kind of peppers these are. But I would say, just judging from the fruit set, these look like, looking at those down there, right? These look like probably Serrano or jalapeno. Probably Serrano. Won't be able to tell until they beef up a bit. And then it's the peppers I'm most excited about. Right here on the very end. These smaller plants are smaller because these are a kind that take forever to grow to any significant height. And that is because they are very, very spicy. Now there's my tag too. Ghost pepper. And we have fruit set. We have more fruits set already on these plants. Actually, we have more fruits growing on these plants. See that back there? And there's one that's almost ripe. I'll get that leaf out of the way. There's one that's going to be ripe and not all that long. There's more fruit set on these plants now than I had all year from the 5 plants that survived last year. This is very exciting. Ghost pepper is my preferred level of spiciness, where I think spice and flavor, especially if you smoke them, meld together the best. Anything hotter, and to me, it's not worth eating. Anything less spicy, and to me, it's not worth using spice. Like capsaicin spice, I should say. So anyway, that's the state of the pepper bed there. The strawberry bed. I kind of disregarded this weird little trellis thing I have around here. This was surrounded by a bird net until two birds decided that they wanted to be in the net and died. So I removed the bird net because it was not there to catch birds. It was there to keep birds out. And while it worked, that was not a price I was willing to pay. So I cut all the netting out. You'll see there's the mesh in the back. That's not netting. That's actually like hardware cloth. So it's just like a wire wall essentially. They didn't get stuck in that. They also don't seem to run into that or anything. Interesting thing about it, I had the nets covered in flash tape. Like there were flash tape like here, 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 all the way around the front panel and on the top and on the sides, and it didn't make a difference. It went fine for 3 or 4 weeks, no problems, and then suddenly the two birds in 2 days died. So I got rid of the net. But anyway, strawberries. Now this is the ever-bearing strawberry variety, not the day-bearing or the June-bearing. So over on the left here, we have the strawberries that I took from the pot. And you remember I covered that a ways back. I had a pot of strawberry plants that were ever-bearing, pineapple strawberries, I believe they were. And it was just a big pot of strawberries. It was just, I bought it from a nursery for, I don't know, like 25 bucks or so. And it contained enough plants to do this. I think that's not bad for 25 bucks, honestly. So, and these are starting to fruit now. I'm excited by this. They had a couple flowers on them when they were still in the pots, but those didn't amount to anything. But now we have some flowers. And we should have fruit. I saw fruit on one of them. I don't see it now, but I did see fruit on one of them a few days ago. So we'll see. I'll have to, maybe a bird got it or something. I don't know. I'm willing to pay the price of a few strawberries to birds. It has been hot and dry. You notice there's quite a lot of runners here. What I've been doing is I've been taking these runners and either cutting them off or moving them from the right to the left to get all of the strawberries that are pineapple strawberry on the left-hand side. So that this variety, which I think is Albion, honestly, I don't remember. It's another ever-bearing variety that is not strawberry. This is a more traditional, I'm sorry, not strawberry. It's strawberry for sure. It's not pineapple strawberry, I should say. This variety is like a more traditional strawberry variety. Like I said, I think it's Albion. I'd have to double check my notes on that. But regardless, as you can see, it is fruiting. My wife has had several berries off this plant already, and she liked them. So I did buy originally, like, I want to say 20 starters, like bare root starters, and these are the only 2 that survived. Everybody else died. Turns out I am not great at dealing with bare root plants. I don't know what my problem is. As these make runners, I'm going to keep the runners in this side. That way over here we've got one variety, and then over here we've got the other variety. And because they'll be ever bearing, they'll just constantly keep showing up with new berries, and it should be pretty fun. And I know eventually I'm not going to be able, especially once this side looks kind of like this side, I'm not going to be able to really tell which runner goes where, and they're going to intermingle, and that's fine. But just in the beginning anyway, I wanted there to be some, I'd like to pretend that there's some semblance of order here. And this is my dad's garden. I need to put the little sign out that says Herb's Garden. And my dad's name is Herb. So, yeah. He hasn't been here in a bit to tend to it, as you can kind of tell by his tomato plants. They're just sort of all over now. I tried, my mother-in-law and I tried to spruce these plants up a bit. By moving them around and trying to support them better. And yeah, there's a lot going on with these. So my dad needs to clear these up. But one thing he'll be excited to see when he does stop by is his watermelon plants are growing with gusto. I don't see any watermelons set yet. And actually, he's got some ripe tomatoes in there. Might have to pick them and let him know. His plants look, for the most part, healthy. That one branch looks like it broke or something. Did it break? Oh, yeah, it totally snapped off. That's why it's dying. Cool. So yeah, ignore the one that snapped off. Other than that, his tomato plants look pretty good. He did have one volunteer in here too. We have no idea what kind it is. It's this one right down here. So I guess we'll see how that turns out. And then his broccoli hasn't started broccoliing yet, but looks pretty healthy. I do not see hardly any signs of pest pressure, so that's good. The herb bed. Not that herb bed, that's herbs bed. Herbs bed. This is the herb bed. This is where all the parsley and mint and basil and catnip and rosemary is located. I think that's everything that's in there. A few different kinds of basil. 3 different kinds of basil, I should say. Chocolate mint, to be specific. So this is the chocolate mint here. There's one in each corner, so that one and over there. This whole chunk right here is parsley. Let's see. We've got, that's catnip. That over there is catnip. And then we have a bunch of Emerald Towers basil, which I am loving this variety so far. And part of that is because this right here is the first flower that's appeared on this plant. I have been fighting the spicy globe basil for months. And, well, as you can see, I've been losing, but that's fine. Bees love this, so I'm not going to sit here and, we clearly have plenty of basil, so I'm not going to sit here and be picky. The bees can, as far as I'm concerned, the bees can have the spicy globe basil, and I'll just harvest from the Emerald Tower basil. And we did have another variety, and I don't even see it in the pile, so either it's gone or I didn't plant it in this bed. I don't know what happened to that, actually. I should probably be a little more put together, right? Here's our barbecue rosemary, so-called because it makes very long, straight stems. And what you do is you cut them off and then use those when you barbecue. You're supposed to literally, once they're longer and a bit woodier, you're supposed to be able to just cut them and then use those as your like shish kebab skewers. And then you cook the rosemary flavor right into the food. In our case, we would be using it for vegetables. And my rose bushes are looking good. They're looking better after I deadheaded them recently, actually. So, yeah. As you can see, we got a bunch of new blooms coming, and we've got a new shoot that's come up. So this is the one that did not get damaged during shipping. And it's looking, I think it's looking pretty good. I mean, there is some evidence of pest damage, but that's not a huge issue as long as the plants do okay. And then here is the one that got damaged during shipping. And as you can see, it's got a bunch of blooms too on that side, and it's growing more on this side. And we've got another shoot down there. So yeah, I'd say these are looking good. When those bloomed earlier, they were very beautiful, by the way. It's my powdery mildew bed. I mean my zucchini bed. LOL. Although, I say it's not the powdery mildew bed, but well, I got to cut that leaf off and deal with that. I see it in a few spots, actually. It's not going to be bad enough to really do much, but I don't want to. These plants are still doing well. They're still healthy, so. Ooh, look at that. Maybe this is the powdery mildew bed. Ick. I'm going to have to deal with that today. Oh. And look, it's a knot friend. In case you're not familiar, that is a squash vine borer. And this is, you know, zucchini bed, so squash bed. I did have one that died already, not in this bed. It was a trap plant. I had planted Hubbard squash out in the pile where the tree used to be because they tend to prefer Hubbard squash. Yeah, I'm going to have to get rid of that guy. Looks like I have lots of upkeep to do in this bed. There was also, pest problems aside, Look at that. I got a big zucchini. One of many, it turns out. Although that's the first striped zucchini in a week or two. Secondary zucchini bed. So that one, the one that we just looked at, had the Italian striped zucchini in it. This has Golden Glory in it. It hasn't started producing much in the way of fruit yet. Probably on account of the fact that while this bed is ostensibly a zucchini bed, it really turns out to be more of a potato bed. Because that is what this is. This is a potato plant. It's pretty, at least. Potato plants. More potato plants. Lots of potato plants. What can I say? I apparently missed some potatoes. Got some blossom end rot here, and I don't think it's due to... I don't think it was due to a lack of water, because everybody else is doing okay. So this, to me, looks like it's more a problem with pollination, which is interesting, because there's the zinnias and the potato plants and all that over here. Currants. There are currently, tisk, no berries left. We ate them all. There weren't a lot. Turns out they only fruit on old wood, and these plants were only 1 year old. So they didn't have much in the way of old wood. So we got, I don't know, maybe 15 berries. But next year, all of what you see here will be fruiting. And so we should have quite a few more berries. Eggplants. Although, truth be told, you can't really see that many eggplants right now. There is an absolutely massive borage plant and what's left of a very massive Swiss chard plant. But there are a bunch of eggplants over there and a wasp. Hi, buddy. How about you leave me alone and I'll leave you alone, since I don't know where your nest is. Because if I did, you can bet I wouldn't leave you alone. So anyway, yeah, the borage is huge and it's crowding out some stuff. But that's all right, because what it's crowding out appears to be the Swiss chard. And the Swiss chard is on its way out anyway. We do have several eggplants that have set fruit. So these are black beauties, or black eggs, one of the two. I can't remember, because again, the birds took the tags out. Ooh, this is sort of exciting, though. Or is that just more borage? Maybe that's just more borage. No, that is going to flower. So my neighbor gave me this hollyhock as a gift, because I was giving him some tomato plants, and he wanted to reciprocate. So he gave me this hollyhock, and behold, hollyhock flowers. So that should bloom soon. That looks fun. And the lavender plant I planted last year is looking good. It's actually growing more than the ones that I planted this year, although those started off a lot bigger. So I think they're different varieties too, although it didn't say they were different. I thought they were the same. I don't know. We'll see. This was the garlic bed. As you can see, we've got some big chive-looking flower, not chive, some big flowers left, but mostly it's just weeds. This went kind of south suddenly. Like everything seemed okay, and then the plants all just sort of started dying. And I don't mean like they were ready for harvest dying, but like they all just sort of fell over while remaining green and then showed like damage and things. Like there was a pest, but I couldn't find a pest, so I don't know what happened. We did get to harvest some of the garlic, specifically the grandpa garlic, and that was the important bit. And the cloves I was able to, or the bulbs I should say, that I was able to save were bigger than the cloves that I had used to seed it were harvested from. So we're going in the right direction there. Wow, look at that cucumber. There. Anyway, we'll get to that bed in a minute. Asparagus, companion planted along with strawberries. These are not ever-bearing strawberries. It's a June-bearing strawberry type. I forget the kind. I bought them at Home Depot and just threw them in there, and they had already flowered by the time I threw them in there, so we're not going to get any strawberries from these plants this year, but as you can see, they're quite happy. They like living here with the asparagus. And the asparagus is pretty happy too, it turns out. Look at that. Asparagus flowers. How interesting. I've never seen an asparagus flower before. I think I have some asparagus beetles here. Cool. Honestly, I'm not really worried about that because these aren't even going to be harvested anytime soon. These won't be harvested from for years, a couple of years. We have two varieties though, Mary Washington and Purple Passion. The big ones are going to be the Purple Passion. So like this is a Purple Passion. The Mary Washington are the much smaller ones, like those down there. And the reason for that is because the Mary Washington ones are the ones I started from seed. The Purple Passion are the ones I got as bare root crowns. So I had planted them out and everything, and only like half of them seemed like they did anything. So I was like, okay, well, I'm glad I started some from seed. I filled in the missing spots, and then the ones that weren't coming out came out. And so then I'm like, okay, well, cool. This whole bed is just crowded with asparagus, which is fine. I mean, that's what it's here for. They'll figure it out. It's like an asparagus thunderdome almost. Speaking of thunderdomes, here's the flower thunderdome. We have, let's see, there's a sunflower growing in there now. That's what this is. This is a sunflower. There's the head forming. It's going to be a red variety, a burgundy sunflower, I think. We've got alyssum. We've got, I think I see at least one zinnia that's growing in there. We've got borage, although the borage is being choked out by everything else. And when something is strong enough to choke out borage, that's kind of impressive. I don't see any of the Delft Blue Nigella. That didn't do its thing. Didn't make it. Not the strongest, hardiest plant. A wasp looking for something. I don't know what he's looking for. But, yeah. I don't know. This is just a fun little experiment. And honestly, you know, I like the fact that the little, ignore the stuff in the background there. But, yeah. It's just a fun little, frame that a little better. Back up, maybe. It's just a fun little experiment. I am glad that the flowers turned out as nice as they did. Now, this isn't like, you know, arranged nice or anything. This was just to see what would happen with the extra seeds, honestly. Here's where I planted things a little more purposely. And this is mostly just zinnias. We got zinnias and some blanket flower. And this is radish. This out of the way. Yeah, that's radish that never formed a good tuber. It just wanted to bolt and make seeds. So I let it bolt and make seeds. We got lots of radish seeds. Yay! Got some nasturtium over there. Nasturtium is an interesting flavor. And some lettuce. And I think the nigella might be over there. More blanket flowers, more zinnias. It's all good. More Salix Flame. From the original variety. This is the only one that survived from the original planting that I put on my website back in January. And it's actually doing okay. So, yeah. All right, folks, you ready for this one? Tomato bed number 1. This is the one located at the back end of the garden that gets the least amount of sunlight. For reference, okay, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. Hopefully you're going to be able to see this. I am a little under 6 feet tall. I would estimate that bar behind me to be just a little over 6 feet tall. And that means that, like, that plant there is over 7 feet tall, as are a lot of them now. I mean, there's one over there that's over 8 feet tall. They're getting so tall now that I can't, like, here's the problem with this. Okay, I can barely reach this right here. So how am I going to harvest way up there? It almost makes me wonder if I should just top the plant and then it'll put its effort elsewhere. Ew, that one got messed up. Come on off of there, buddy. You're bug food. It's fine. Just, you know, I have enough tomatoes. Good Lord, do I have enough tomatoes? There's so many tomatoes growing all over these plants. Like, No shortage of tomatoes. I have hundreds of cherry tomatoes growing, and that's pretty fantastic. That's what I wanted. Good thing too, because I mean, like, every plant is just loaded with fruit. These are doing so well. They are so happy. I just so pleased with how this turned out. I will say that it's actually strong enough now that you can see it is bending one of the pieces of EMT because the support broke. It was one of the ones I said I needed to replace, and then I didn't replace it because I was being lazy. Haha, it broke. Predictable, I know. These three here, this one, and that one, are all giant crimson from M.I. Gardner. I think. Let me look. I got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So not the most vigorous grower, height-wise, but setting some pretty big fruit. As you can see down here, they're not harvestable yet, obviously. Unless I wanted to do like a fried green tomato sort of thing. But they're there. They're growing. They're doing well. Just look, more tomato bounty. So many tomatoes. I might actually have some that are going to be ready soon. Look at that. I got somebody turning yellow back there. What kind is that one? The bird's nice enough to leave me a tag. Sun gold. Hey, look at that. That'll actually be harvestable soon. It's almost time. Yeah, this is just a look from in between at the back where there's volunteer tomatoes showing up, and the strawberry plants that I planted in here as just kind of a ground cover. They're doing all right. It's another June bearing variety, so they're not going to make any strawberries this year, which is fine. Yeah, just look at all of these that have this blush of black across them. Those are blueberries. They're not blueberries like the plant blueberries. They're blueberries indigo tomatoes, which is a savory cherry tomato that it has a nice flavor once it's fully ripe. Before it's fully ripe, it does not have a nice flavor. All right. That's right, cabbage moth. Get out of here. It's probably about time to spray with BT again. Speaking of spraying with BT and also cabbage moths, look, it's the brassica bed. I toned down my brassicas this year pretty dramatically. So all I have now are black magic kale. That's all this. Or also known as dinosaur kale. This is my favorite kale variety. It has a nice nutty flavor. It's some good stuff. And then over here we have cabbage. I forget the name of the variety off the top of my head. It's a kind that's supposed to store really well. And then we have, smell that, folks? It smells like broccoli. If you're not familiar with this, brassica beds tend to have a flavor in the air, and it's not necessarily a pleasant one. Ooh, look at that zucchini. Well, I mean, yellow summer squash, technically, but basically a zucchini. This was a curly blue kale variety, I believe. I let it go to seed since it's the only one that really overwintered well. I figured I will store up the seeds and then use that for the seed swap in the spring. So I've already pulled several branches that were dry, and I'm going to continue to pull them as they dry off, or out. Yeah. Behold, squash. This is the secondary pepper bed, and really this is kind of a combination of a squash and pepper bed. So here I have serrano, jalapeno, and so this should be, well, I know what it should be, but that and that aren't the same kind of plant, so maybe I mixed something up somewhere. Anyway, that's jalapeno, and that's jalapeno. So I'm thinking like those over there are Serrano. Again, birds pulled my tags out, the little jerks. It's all good. I like all peppers, so it's fine. These look like Serrano, I think. Yeah. It should be Serrano, jalapeno. I think there's Italian pepperoncini over here, which actually, that's what this one is. This is Italian pepperoncini, and you can tell, pepperoncini. Oh, and that actually still has the tag. Look at that. Anyway, you can tell just by looking at the peppers. They look kind of like a shishito pepper, but they get bigger than that, and they don't do the thing with shishitos where shishitos you have most of the peppers will be one spice level, which is basically no spice. They taste very similar to like green peppers. And then like 1 out of every 5, I think, or maybe it's 1 out of every 10, will suddenly kick in with something akin to like a spicy jalapeno blast of spice. They're not consistently spicy. They are consistently non-spicy, but every now and then in the mix, you get one that really kind of bangs it up a notch. Catches you by surprise. As a result of that, I love roasted shishito peppers. They're good stuff. This is spicy Thai, super Thai peppers, something like that. I mean, not this. This is the Thai peppers. This is a tiny pumpkin. Jack B. Little, I think, variety. And then behind that is my absolutely massive orange balm plant that overwintered. I cut this plant back, too, just recently. Not that you can tell. The tall tomato bed, also known as tomato bed number 2. This is the one that I built this year and did the whole video covering it, and you can see that's working pretty well. Now, to be fair, these tomatoes got planted a little later in the season. Just a little, though. A couple of weeks. Hey, look. Malabar spinach volunteers from last year. So these are a little bit behind, but that has not impacted. That's not impacting the fruit set, seemingly at all. It has absolutely massive tomatoes on it. Just crazy tomatoes. These are San Marzano, I think. That's what that tag down there says anyway. Then we've got Brandywine and Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, these are San Marzano as well. I wanted to bring at least one of these tomato plants to your attention, though, because this is something that I have not personally seen. This is climbing triple crop. Now, climbing triple crop, for some reason, I had it in my head that this variety made like plum-sized tomatoes. I have one over there that's got blossom and rot. Hold on just a second. Not really the plant's fault. Anyway, what was I saying? Right. Climbing triple crop. Back to the point I was trying to get to there. I had it in my head. The climbing triple crop was an indeterminate variety of tomatoes that makes like plum-sized tomatoes. And the interesting thing about them was that they were supposed to get really, really big. Like really, really stupidly big plants. Not the tomatoes, but the plants were supposed to get up to, some people were reporting that these things get 15, 20 feet long. Now, that seems within the realm of possibility because, indeterminate tomato, given a long enough season, it'll just keep growing until it's, huge. So that doesn't really shock me. But what does sort of surprise me is that I'm getting relatively short plants. These are only 5 feet tall, maybe. And that's just the 2 taller ones. This one's not even that tall. And instead of having absolutely huge plants with smaller tomatoes, I have small plants with stupefyingly large tomatoes showing up. Like, I've never grown a tomato. Like look at this. This is ridiculous. This is huge tomatoes. And they're just covered in them. Like, I don't even want to touch it because the tomatoes are so big. I touched it. I shouldn't have touched that. I might have just killed that. Well, I hope it's okay. Shouldn't have touched it. Anyway, the tomatoes are absolutely massive, as you can see. I mean, this is definitely the biggest tomato right here. That is the biggest tomato I think I have ever grown. By a lot. I don't generally grow big tomatoes, to be fair. I tend to go towards the snacking variety. So, cherry tomatoes almost exclusively, which is why that other bed is just covered in them. Hundreds upon hundreds of them. And that's fine. But, wow. These are big. Hopefully they're good. More cherry tomatoes, too. Just so many tomatoes. This is going to be so much fun to come out here and harvest like 5 pounds of cherry tomatoes in a day. Behold, blueberries. We'll take you in for a closer look on several of these plants here. The two bigger ones, which are currently center frame, are Patriot blueberries. These are the ones that I had started growing in the shed and then planted out and stressed out to an extreme amount. They're doing all right. Looks like I need to water things again, but so far these have been doing well after they recovered. We even actually got a couple of blueberries off of them, which I was surprised by. I thought they would drop all their flowers. That was not the case. A couple flowers still made it to maturity and yeah, bore fruit. So they were tiny, they were extremely tart. I mean, the plants weren't in the best of health when the flowers set the fruit, so I'm not surprised. And that's not a fault of the plants. That was 100% on me. So these things happen, unfortunately. But the plants are fine, and I look forward to blueberries from them in the future. Now here, these are early blueberry plants. The two in the center of each, I should say the one in the center of each of the planters. And then the ones in the corners are American cranberries. Now, you'll notice there is a distinct soil height difference here. That is because I need to add a little bit more dirt to these on the right. You would think that I've already mulched them, but actually, this is just what the Miracle-Gro This is just what the Miracle-Gro dirt looked like coming out of the bag. It's clearly not dirt, it's mulch with a bit of compost in it. So it's not a review of their products or anything, and normally I would buy my soil in bulk, but I needed to pick up a bit so that I could fill these beds, and this is what I ended up getting. So that's not my favorite thing. The plants look like they're doing all right. These were only recently transplanted out, and they came with a bit of red on them to begin with. So actually the one on the left here is recovering nicely, it looks like. The one on the right, it looks like it's still not in the best of health, but we'll see. See how these turn out. I'm excited to see how the cranberries do as well. I quite like cranberries, especially for like fall flavorings. I make a thing called autumnal soup that I came up with to see if I could make a savory recipe out of primarily sweet ingredients. Cranberries is one of those ingredients. So, along with butternut squash and some apples and things like that. So, I think I need to come up with a name for this little garden area just to help differentiate it from other spots when I'm talking. Maybe the breezeway garden? I don't know. This is the breezeway right behind this, so that's what I'm thinking. Now, clearly, I need to do some weeding. I haven't weeded this bed in, I don't know, a few weeks, as you can clearly tell. But the plants that are in it are actually doing quite well. The clematis is growing quite nicely, as you can see here. The lavender plants look like I need to cut the bloom ends off. I don't know. Do you need to deadhead lavender? I've never looked that up. I probably should. And everything else I planted is doing well, as you can see here. Even the sedum is spreading and looks pretty good, actually. I mean, these plants were tiny when I planted them, so yeah. I'm really hoping this clematis blooms this year. I don't know if it will, but if it does, it should be kind of spectacular. That's what I'm hoping for. It's growing very quickly, so I'm thinking it will make it, and we'll get something. I do a note about that though. Clematis is not the strongest climber in the world, so you do have to sort of help weave it through things. At least when the things that it's trying to climb are this big in diameter. Look, our lilies are starting to bloom. That's always fun. This will be the first time for these. Planted them out, and then we had the pest guy come and deal with a termite issue. And in so doing, he drilled the termite traps directly into the lily bed. So that caused some problems there. But several of them did survive. And I wouldn't say they're thriving where they are, but they are doing okay. So if I had to guess, the huge patch of wild violets behind them is probably sapping a lot of the moisture out of the soil. Just a guess, though. Raspberries. Well, raspberry bushes at any rate. This is my 2 raspberry rows. As you see, I got to spread the mulch still. Deal with some weeds and whatnot, but here they are. And they're actually getting quite tall. Like this. This right here is, I don't know, 4 feet tall or so. So it won't be too much longer, and these will start putting out flowers for their fall fruiting. I look forward to that. This should be pretty nice. Now these are tall enough, and I still haven't done the new system here for supporting these, so that's something I'm going to have to do soon. And you can see there's poles for it down there. So, because yeah, otherwise these are going to not have the support they need, and then they're just going to be really floppy, and that is not the thing I want to deal with when I'm dealing with thorned bushes. So, yeah. Willow bed. This is Salix Flame, at least in theory. One of them at least looks like Salix Flame. We'll see how this turns out. Now, we just power washed everything out here, so because of that, there's a bit of debris still on the ground cover. But other than that, I'd say these are doing pretty good. In the winter, I'll come by, harvest the canes, and plant them out in an area where they can actually do what they need to do, because this was just temporary to get them started, and then my wife can have this spot back, since this is technically on her side of the yard. Homebrew. Not really gardening related, I know, but this is something that is sort of homesteading related. Now, I'm not trying to do any sort of homesteading, but this is something that I was interested in because I like the concept of making mead and ciders and things like that. I mean, that is kind of one of the reasons why I got apple trees anyway. So, yeah, this is a beer kit, and it's a few days in now. This will not be ready for its initial racking until the 30th of July. So I've got another 11 or so days, and yeah, this is still pretty early on. Last, but certainly not least, grass. Haha, no, I'm kidding. One other quick note, folks. I mentioned in a recent video that I saw velvet ants. Well, I saw one velvet ant. I just want to report I have not seen more velvet ants. So that's good. I am not saying that they are definitely here because I could have misidentified it. I doubt it given their extremely specific color banding of just straight up black and red. I mean, if it looks like a big kind of fuzzy wasp and it's black and red striped, that's basically what you're looking for. It may or may not have wings. If it has wings, it's a male and can't sting you. If it's a female, it will not have wings. And so they just sit around on the ground and sting people, causing intense, horrible, incapacitating amounts of pain. Like, it's supposed to be just awful. It's akin to like being shot. So, you know, I don't want to have that happen to me. So I've been keeping an eye out on things and I haven't seen any more. So here's hoping they're not here and that I was just wrong about the identification. It's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. So anyway, I just want to give everybody that update as well. Good tidings, hopefully. So, this has been July's State of the Garden. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to having just so many tomatoes. I don't even know what to do with them. I'm going to donate some stuff, so it should be good. One of my neighbors works with a company that does that, so I think I might be like, hey neighbor, you want to take some stuff and donate it to a local food bank? I think that'll be good, because Lord knows I'm gonna have enough zucchini and squash, because there's just so many. I've harvested 5 or 6 so far, just big squash and zucchini. We're using them, but the garden's making them now faster than we can use them, and there's 3 more that need to be harvested right now. And I got to get rid of that squash vine borer. So I'm going to go get to that until we talk again. Thanks for watching. I should be center frame now. Yeah, we'll see. Now I realize that this isn't explicitly gardening related, but homebrew. This is a new experiment I'm going to be trying to get into. I'm not a big fan of beer, and this was made with a beer kit. I should probably start that over.